is meant to show how to run a rate quote through RNL carriers in order to then create a BOL. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and log on to or go into RNL's website. And right now the cookies are have saved our login and our password. So you just go ahead and hit login. All right, and now we're into their TMS system. I want to get a rate quote for LTL shipment that we want to send out. And so we're going to start right here. Origin is our facility. 97132 is our zip code, Newburgh, Oregon. And now we need to get the zip code and all the information for the actual LTL order. So I'm going to go into BigCommerce, which is the back end of our website. And I'm going to type in 38216, and which is the SO number. 38216. There we go. All right, and shipping, it's going to Santa Fe, New Mexico. 87507 is the zip code. 87507. Santa Fe, New Mexico. You'll notice there's a drop down here. Sometimes there's multiple cities that you can select per the zip code that you put in. So just make sure you're selecting the correct city. And shipment details. So what we want to do here is we want to actually go into the density calculator because density is what pretty much defines all of our rate quotes. Always going to be in inches, and in this particular one, it's going to be 75 by 32 by 21, and the weight is 177 pounds. Now let's see here. We've got a density of 6.0686. We always want to shoot for a density anything over 6. That definitely is over 6, and so we are good to go there. We're going to hit apply, and that'll apply all those dimensions and everything to this rate quote. Don't need to do anything with these two fields. Origin options, it's being picked up from here. We don't need any of those selected. We have a forklift. We don't have limited access, and they're not picking up inside. But for majority of our product, we are sending to commercial address, or I'm sorry, to residential addresses. In which case, they will need a destination liftgate. They will need a way to get it off the truck since most residents don't have a forklift, and any residential address is going to be limited access delivery. The only times these are not selected is when we knowingly are sending the product to a shop or a commercial address that does have a forklift and is not limited access, in which case we don't have to select these. That is important because if we selecting these actually increases the rate quote. And so if you don't need to select them, best case is to not select them in order to receive a cheaper rate. But we've got all our information, all of our basic information for the shipment right here. So I'm going to hit submit. All right, and so we got a rate quote of 303.66 is the standard service, and that's pretty much all we ever want to go with. We don't really offer any kind of expedited service for LTL shipments, just because that does create a little bit more back end work and babysitting, and then possible expectations not being met by the customer. And so we just offer the flat rate, which is the 249 for the customer, and then we pretty much pay the difference. And so that rate right there, we're going to go and accept. And what I want to do is I want to actually save this rate quote, and so we can reference it again when we get the invoice and make sure that the invoice matches the rate quote. So I'm going to save it as a PDF just to my actual computer here. And the way I'm going to save it is put BC for BigCommerce, and then I'm going to put the actual order number 38216. Save it there, and then one more step is going to actually be going into my drive and going to the freight quote folder, and I'm actually dropping this in here. The reason being is if the invoice comes in and I'm not here, somebody else can match the invoice to the rate quote, and then we can go ahead and continue processing that invoice rather than waiting for me to come in and do that. All right, so we got it, that 38216 rate quote saved here in our drive. So we're going to go and exit out of that. And then from here, you say create bill of lading, and you would just follow all the normal prompts. I'm not going to push this through just because this order is not quite yet ready for to be shipped out. But that is the basics of just getting a rate quote specifically through RNL, and then creating the BOL is very, very standard and straightforward.